Hello and welcome to another episode of Committed to Connection. This is a podcast where we're exploring how to build a village in the modern day world. And it's been a while since I last recorded. I have been going through life. Life has been tussling with me like, oh my goodness. For those of you who might not know a little bit about me, I am currently in school. I'm completing my master's in community psychology, which I think is very fitting of why I even have this podcast in the first place. And then I'm also working full time, and I am doing a couple of other things on the side: research assistant, teaching assistant, podcast whenever I have the time, and it's a lot. All while not compromising as much as possible on the joys of life, like community and like all of the other things that make me happy. So I try my best not to compromise on that, but recently with everything, it has just felt like a lot. And that's just where I am at personally. If you are also feeling like life is really lifing, then I relate to you. I am with you. I am here for you. If you want to vent and rant together, I see you. And we're gonna get through this. The thing that I keep telling myself is that, number one, everybody's going through it right now. And so having grace with myself, grace with each other. And then number two, oftentimes it's a season. And I know right now I'm in a season where things are a lot busier. And I'm in a season where I feel stretched like never before, and I'm learning more than ever before. But like I know that there's going to be times where I'm going to look back on this season of my life and miss it, and I'm going to be in a new season, in a different season, and it will look very different than it does right now. And so like those are the things that I keep reminding myself so that I can actually enjoy the present, and when I'm not enjoying it, remember that it is just a season. Anyways, that was my introduction to how I am, how I've been. How are you? I already asked you that, but feel free to let me know. For this podcast episode, I want to talk about how to love others well, even when you don't feel like it. And I feel like some of the things that I'm going to say are going to be a little controversial given what I see every single day when I am on social media. And a lot of the things that I see are very much so catered to me. So I am right and I need to do what's best for me. And if I don't like you, or if you hurt me, or if you annoy me, then I'm out of here. Peace, sayonara, see you later. And I just got to do what's best for me. I got to put me first, Lucius. I got to put me first. And I think we're going to be talking not against that in this episode, but I want to put things a little bit more into perspective and balance it a little bit more, and give you some things to think about. And I don't have it super scripted. I tried to script it, but every single time I try to script, then I feel like I'm not hitting all of the right things, and then I get in my head, and I just want to be in the present moment and kind of like talk about what I think people need or want to hear most right now in this moment as I'm speaking to you. So I guess where I'm going to start with how to love others well, even when you don't feel like it. I think I'm going to hone in on that word feel and feelings. And I'm going to talk about the fact that our feelings are really great indicators of what's happening, but they are not truth. And so sometimes our feelings can even go contrary to what is objectively true in a given moment. And that's why I think I started with my first episode. I don't remember the name of the episode, but basically how to find yourself when you feel lost. Yeah, that episode where I was talking about identity, vision, strategy. If you haven't watched it, you should go watch it. It's currently my favorite episode that I've ever filmed. But anyways, in that episode, I'm talking about like, what is your identity? What is your vision? What is your strategy? And these things serving as anchors in your life, because then when your feelings come in, your feelings will sometimes tell you things that are contrary to what you know is true. And why am I going into this? I'm going into this because I've noticed in my own life, sometimes I feel like not talking to anybody. I feel like giving up. I feel like I'm overwhelmed. I feel like I'm stressed. I feel like I'm anxious. I feel all of these different things. And I have to go back and tell myself, Rachel, what is true? And that process of doing that is, I think, like a deeply vulnerable process, because it requires you admitting to yourself that what I am experiencing right now in this moment, what I am feeling right now in this moment, might not actually be true. And so I will hear out what it is that I'm feeling. I will listen to what it is that I'm feeling, but I'm going to speak truth to it, and I'm going to tell myself, like, these are the things that I know to be true. So I want to start off by saying that leading with vulnerability with yourself and with others, I think, is one of the ways to love other people well. And how do I lead with vulnerability? It's opening up about, this is how I feel in the moment, and I might not I might know that this is not true. I might know that, this isn't like the objective reality, but it is how I feel. And I'm allowing myself to admit that to myself, and I'm allowing myself to admit that to another person. So a lot of times, like when I am feeling overwhelmed, when there's a lot going on in my life, when I'm super stressed, I really do not feel like talking to anybody. I don't feel like reaching out to anybody. I don't feel like, having super long conversations and all of that. And so, like talking about that and leading with vulnerability with the people in my life and telling them like a little bit about, this is what I'm experiencing right now, really helps. I'll give you an everyday example. So you had a long day, you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, you're feeling a little bit stressed, and you didn't do the things that you said that you wanted to do. You're feeling very behind, and you find yourself like lying down in bed, scrolling on social media, and time is like passing by, and then you get a phone call from one of your friends. Now, in that moment, my natural instinct is, I don't want to talk right now. I don't feel like engaging in conversation, and I don't feel like picking up the phone and talking, and I just want to hide. So in that moment, you know what you're feeling. The truth is that it would really help to like break this like spiral or this cycle that you tend to go through over and over again. And so I am going to pick up the phone, and I'm going to lead with vulnerability, and I'm going to say, hey, had a long day. I really don't feel like talking right now. Didn't even really want to pick up the phone. I'll probably only be able to talk for a couple of minutes. But like, here's a little bit of what's going on in my life. How are you? Et cetera, et cetera. And note to self, note to editing Rachel. This is where it's helpful to kind of like ask somebody, are you free to talk? What's going on? How are you right now? Before you dive into the conversation and into what's up, like just giving them a moment to like orient themselves in this conversation, and I'm feeling stressed or I'm feeling whatever, and orient themselves. Write that out and like talk about that a little bit more. But when you pick up the phone and you voice how you're feeling in the moment, but still allow that opportunity for connection, I think that can be really powerful. That can be a way where they're probably like, girl, I'm feeling the same exact way. And a lot of times it like helps me to like, together we'll say, okay, how can we get back on track? Or, what specifically can you do in the next couple of hours that will help you feel better? And that conversation can really help. And so I'm loving others by not disconnecting and not ignoring and not hiding. But in a sense, I'm also loving myself by doing that. And I think like that is pretty beautiful. So yes, that is how, like, leading with vulnerability is how I'm able to love others while also loving myself, and not allowing those feelings that I'm feeling to dictate my actions, because sometimes the very thing that feeling is stopping you from doing is what will make you feel better in the long run and afterwards. And I think, picking up the phone and saying, this is how I feel right now, this is what's going on in my head, and allowing like that connection point and letting them in a little bit, being vulnerable in that way. I think it is really cool because oftentimes, and I don't know if I've said this in previous podcast episodes, but I will say it again. Oftentimes, what makes me feel the most connected to somebody and what makes me feel loved by other people and allows for that intimacy is when you when you pull the curtain back and allow them to see the behind the scenes of the performance. What do I mean by that? I mean that every encounter that you have with somebody else, every conversation that you have with another person, every single time that you're interacting and engaging with the outside world, that is a performance. I'm performing. I don't necessarily have like the lights and cameras that I do right now, but as I'm engaging with other people, that is a form of performance. I know what I'm supposed to say. I'm supposed to smile, when I'm supposed to laugh. We've all been taught the scripts of how to be social with other people and how to engage with other people. Now, pulling back the performance is talking about those inner thoughts that you're having while the performance is going on, right? So, for example, I was at an event and I met this person for the first time and we're like talking and, we engaged in the performance. Hi, how are you? Is this your first time here? No. Where'd you come from? Et cetera, et cetera. And then there's like a little bit of like a lull and we're like looking around and, I can't remember word for word, but basically like I look at her and I'm like, these kinds of situations sometimes make me very nervous. Like I really struggle with going up and talking to people and like inserting myself in a conversation. And then she's like, yeah, me too. Like I don't always know what to say and, whatever. I can't remember like the exact words. But now we go from, that performance to like talking about and pulling back the veil to like the behind the scenes of the thought process that is happening and how, it's kind of hard and how I don't really feel like it right now. And I'm kind of hungry actually. And, I feel judged when people, look at me a certain way. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because when you're vulnerable and when you say things like how you're actually feeling behind the scenes and the actual thought processes that are leading to the behaviors and the actions that are observable in the social world, then that allows for even deeper connection. And I'm telling you like my tips and tricks and how I, really get close with people very fast is by, saying things like how I'm actually feeling right now in the moment. If I'm a little bit nervous, I'm a little bit scared right now, I don't feel like talking, I'm feeling stressed. Just inviting them in allows them to get to know you a little bit more and allows them and invites them to do the same so that you can love them better. Yeah. Then number 2 thing that I want to talk about is leading with curiosity and assuming positive intent when you are talking to somebody, when you are with your friends, and when you are trying to love other people well, even when you don't feel like it. So going back to our feelings, sometimes our feelings will tell us this person hates us, they want nothing to do with us, they're actually plotting my demise, and they actually want to drag me down. And there's these stories that we build about people without actually inviting them into the conversation that we're having with ourselves. And so I think that it's very important to lead with or assume positive intent and lead with curiosity and ask questions. I know that whenever something comes up with me and a friend, I will always give them the benefit of the doubt. That is just the kind of person that I am. That is the kind of person that I think a lot of us are. But for some reason, I'm seeing it getting lost more and more and more and more. And we assign very harsh character traits to people when they do something that we wouldn't do, right? And in psychology, what do we call this in psychology? Let me not get all technical, but in psychology, like this is a very well studied phenomenon where when we do something, we will say, oh, but let's say I drive really fast and I like cut somebody off. I'll say, yeah, but I really have to get somewhere urgently. I had a long day, I'll assume, like I'll tell myself that these are all of the different reasons why I behaved in the way that I did. And then versus when somebody else does it, then I'll say they're a horrible person. I will assign like these really harsh, big, bad character traits to them when they do the same behavior that sometimes I have done. And so I catch myself when I'm doing that. I catch myself when I'm doing that in the little things, and I think that it shows up in the bigger things when it has to do with relationships as well. For example, recently I was in the car and there was somebody who was like coming out of the parking lot and they were just like, I don't know what they were trying to do. Like it was just a mess of a situation. They're trying to go to the left. It wasn't working, trying to go to the right. And I'm observing it. And I literally said out loud, I was like, that is not an intelligent person. Because of how they were navigating the situation. I literally said, and I thought, that is not an intelligent person. And then I think like the next day, I sat there and I remembered that, and I thought to myself, Rachel, if there's anybody who should not be judging somebody driving and navigating a driving situation, it is me. Because the way I sometimes freak out and my brain glitches when it's like, should I turn now? Should I not turn now? Should I go? Should I go? No, I'm going to wait. And my driving, I should not be anybody to judge. So all of that to say, oftentimes we'll look at somebody and they'll do something and we'll be like, why would you ever do that? You are a horrible person. You suck. And you don't deserve anything good in life. And I see a lot of people saying that to 2 people in the comments section of videos because they engaged in like a certain behavior, and so you will assign character traits to them and you will condemn them. And so with my friends and with people in my life, how do I love others well? It is by giving them grace, assuming positive intent, leading with curiosity, asking questions, and not assigning these big, harsh character traits, and asking them like, why did you do what you did? And that ability to empathize. Now, when I empathize with somebody, when I'm able to see it from their perspective, when I'm able to understand why they did what they did, that doesn't mean that I agree. That doesn't mean that I would do the same thing. That doesn't mean that I need to sit here and allow you to keep doing it to me, even though I understand why you're doing it. But I think that is a muscle that we are losing, is even that ability to understand where somebody else is coming from and understand that like they don't have to be a bad person. They can actually be a smart, intelligent person, and I can still disagree with what they did and where they're coming from. But this is where I wish like I was having a conversation with somebody just so that I could ask, do you understand what I'm trying to say when I say that? You understand that you can love others by like asking them questions, figuring out where they're coming from, empathizing with them, understanding that they are a human with like lived experiences and that they are probably really smart, maybe even smarter than I am, and they probably have good reason for the way that they are thinking, and I still disagree, and this is why I disagree. I think that's just like super important, like for us to be thinking about and talking about, and that's a way to love others well. And then the third thing that I think is super important when we talk about how to love others well, it is leading with service and with sacrifice. How do I love others well even when I don't feel like it? Is I have a heart of service. And I go into my relationships thinking about how can I serve you? How can I help you? What do you need in this moment? And even though like this might be really hard for me to do, I'm willing to like sacrifice my comfort in order for this relationship to work. Now, I'm going to put a whole bunch of caveats, a whole bunch of disclaimers, an asterisk, and say that there are many times where our kindness has been taken advantage of, and that is not what I want or desire. And I'm not saying that you should be doing this in a way where you're like breaking yourself and bending yourself over backwards for people who do not care about you and who are treating you in a wrong way. That is not what I'm referring to. But I think that like loving others, what love looks like is asking like, how can I serve you? And it in a healthy relationship, in a healthy friendship, it is you trying to outserve the other person. And that's where like reciprocity comes in, right? I think like the way that we think about our friendships can sometimes be very transactional, or it can be like, what can I get from this other person? What can I get? What can I get? What can I get? But if you're thinking about like, how can I serve this person without expecting them to do anything else in return? Like, I am going to do this for you, and I don't need you to do that for me. I don't need you. If I throw a surprise birthday for my friend, I do not need or expect you to throw a surprise birthday for me. And I'm not going to now be upset when it's December 23rd and you didn't throw me a surprise birthday party, even though I threw you a surprise birthday party. Because a lot of times people can feel, let me just even say, I can feel when you are doing something for me because you want me to do it for you. And I will say, like, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want something with strings attached. I don't want something knowing that you're going to come collect later. Right? And so, like, even just like changing that heart posture in my mind, where if I do something, if I invite friends over to my place and I cook a meal for them and I plan everything out, I don't have that expectation of you to do the same for me. I don't need you to do the same for me. Yes, I do like expect that, you're still gonna like show up and love me in our relationship. But we're gonna talk about like what that looks like and how that works best for me and like what I need in this relationship. And like, that's why it's like important to have those conversations, pull back the curtain. I don't feel loved. I would appreciate if we did this a little bit more, if we talked a little bit more, if we hung out. Like, we need to have more of those conversations, guys. Have those conversations with your friends. Tell them, I'm feeling this kind of way. And friend, if somebody has told you, this is how I feel, that took a lot of courage and vulnerability for them to say that. And so hear them out and talk about like what compromise can look like. I'm not in a space where I can call you every day. I'm so sorry. I'm not in a space where I'm answering all of your texts. However, what I can do is make sure that I'm calling you X amount of times, once a month, and we have our check-in there. And that is what like this friendship can look like. And so like that is me like serving you. Like, yes, I know you're the kind of person that you're gonna like text me all the time and you're gonna say like, oh, I'm thinking of you, this is da 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 da. Like, I am gonna do that. I don't expect you to do the same. Like, you do not have to text me back every time. You do not have to answer all of the time. But I know that you're going to call me and we're going to have like an hour-long conversation and we're going to check in that way. And like, that's what I think reciprocity is, right? It's like, this is how I'm going to love you. This is how I'm going to show up in this relationship and in this friendship. This is who I am. I love gift giving. I'm going to give you a bunch of gifts. I'm not going to put that expectation on you to do that in the same exact way. But I know that when we talk, like, I love the conversations that we have once a month. You're checking in. You'll give me like really thoughtful gifts once a year. Like, it's very reciprocal. So why am I saying all of this? I'm saying all of this because it has helped me in my friendships to think about like, how can I serve you? What do you need? I'm not going to put expectations on you to show up in that same exact way. And I know that like, they're going to love me in this specific way, and we're going to compromise and we're going to talk about it. And we are going to like have that back and forth. And there are going to be seasons of my life where I'm putting in a lot more into this friendship and I'm really holding the weight and I'm showing up and I'm like asking you like, how are you? And you're venting to me, etc., etc. And then there's some times where it's vice versa. And I think like that heart of service is very important when you're thinking about how to love other people. So let me say that all of this takes time and it takes practice, but if we want to have healthier relationships with the people in our lives, I think we need to allow ourselves to be more vulnerable. I think we need to allow ourselves to be curious and assume positive intent when dealing with difficult people and people that are hard to love for us, and just being a little bit humbling ourselves to like engage in those conversations, those difficult conversations, and those environments that aren't always super easy. And then like having that heart of service and asking like, how can I show up for you? How can I love you? And being honest about like, this is also how I feel loved. And this is kind of like what I need in the relationship, and having that compromise, going back and forth. Like it's not like a step-by-step thing, but I think like those are like very important things.
But I think that is everything that I want to say for this week's episode. I think this was a little bit of a shorter episode. Just looking at how long I have been recording for. Not too long. I'm gonna model that vulnerability and letting you into my inner world. I'm like, I don't know if I explained everything that I wanted to explain, how I wanted to explain it. But I'm hoping that it blesses you. And if it does, then please do let me know. Let me know any questions that you have. If there's anything that you disagree with, let me know. I want to hear it. And I want us to talk about it. And that is how we learn. I learn from you all of the time. And so keep talking to me. Keep talking to me. That is everything for this week's episode. Thank you again for watching. And I cannot wait to see you next week on Committed to Connection. Okay, bye.
More to